Welcome everyone. I'm Big King Taurus, and this is a review of Masterverse Deluxe Faker from the Netflix original series Masters of the Universe Revelation. Faker is a mainstay of the Masters of the Universe franchise, and easily one of the most recognizable characters. Faker is a robotic clone of He-Man who serves Skeletor. He originally first showed up in the vintage Masters of the Universe toy line, and has had appearances throughout the various associated media. Traditionally, Faker is a mostly blue redeco of He-Man with orange hair, purple boots and loincloth, and an orange redeco of Skeletor's crossbones harness, with the exception of his one and only appearance in the Filmation cartoon and his sole appearance in Revelation, where he looks exactly like He-Man. Masterverse Faker is based on his appearance in the Revelation animated series. He comes packaged in a large windowed box, showing off the full figure, his weapons, and alternate parts. The box follows the same color scheme and overall aesthetics of all the other Masterverse figures. As with previous figures in this line, we get artwork of Faker on the left side of the box. This artwork depicts Faker up front in his battle-damaged state, exposing the robot underneath with a large shot of him in disguise overhead with red glowing eyes. On the back, we get more artwork of Faker, along with a short bio of the character, as well as a cross-sell of all the other figures available in the first wave. In this artwork, Faker is posed for battle inside the halls of Castle Grayskull, wielding his orange version of the Power Sword. And on the right side of the box is the standard fare of name and tagline, which reads, Faker, evil robot of Skeletor. Like with all of the releases, this matches the rest of the package's deco and layout. But since you didn't come here just to look at a box, let's unleash Faker and take a closer look at the figure within. Faker comes packed with an orange redeco of Masterverse Skeletor's armor, a fully exposed robotic head, an undamaged head, a gripping right hand, an open left hand, an orange redeco of He-Man's sword, and a straight re-release of Masterverse He-Man's shield. Here is Faker's power sword, next to Masterverse He-Man's sword on the left and Skelegod's sword on the right. As you can see, the only real difference is the deco, as Faker's sword is cast in an orange plastic with painted details on the blade and handle. And here is a comparison of Masterverse Faker's sword against Origins Faker's sword on the left and Classics Faker's sword on the right. While the swords are obviously different molds, it's easy to see that the Masterverse sword takes inspiration from the previous iterations. And for whatever reason, Mattel decided to include He-Man's shield with no deco changes. Seriously, there's no variation whatsoever between the two shields. I imagine that most or all of the shield shares tooling with the included He-Man harness, and they couldn't cast it in a different color without affecting the look of the harness. It would have been nice if they at least painted the shield orange to match his sword. Here we have Faker's traditional orange redeco of Skeletor's armor alongside Masterverse Skeletor's armor. Faker's armor is not just a straight redeco of Skeletor's armor, it's slightly retooled and features additional pegs and ports for the two halves to line up correctly. And since the two pieces are also glued together, it eliminates the issue that plagued Masterverse Skeletor's armor shifting out of place. Here is Faker out of the package. As mentioned earlier, this appearance of Faker is based on his sole appearance in Masters of the Universe Revelation. If you haven't seen it yet, warning, there are spoilers ahead. Faker's battle-damaged appearance is the result of him trying to trick the sorceress into believing he's He-Man, and when he tries to take her captive, she badly damages him, exposing the robot underneath. Ultimately, he is destroyed by Man-at-Arms. The exposed robotic areas are molded on and not simply painted on. He comes packaged with a damaged head, but this can be swapped out for the fully robotic head that's accurate to the animation. He also has an undamaged head that you can put on, but it looks out of place and quite frankly looks better on a He-Man body. You can use it to create the evil vision of He-Man that Teela saw in her battle against Scareglow and Subternia. You can also take the head and the orange harness and put it on a He-Man body to get a more traditional looking Faker, minus him being blue. Both the undamaged and battle damaged head feature the same hair sculpt, red painted eyes, and serious expression compared to the more jovial expression of the standard He-Man released in Wave 1. The only difference between the two is the sculpted battle damage on the left side of the face of the battle damaged head. As you can see, both heads are completely different sculpts from the first He-Man released in the line. Above the waist, Faker features almost all newly tooled parts, replacing the upper and lower torso, left and right shoulders, left and right biceps, and the right elbow and forearm. Much of the newly sculpted detail makes its way around the back of the figure. Below the waist, the figures are practically identical, with the exception of Faker having a slightly better deco with a more metallic yellow color for the belt and a wash that brings out more detail in the loincloth. Faker features the same hand-swapping gimmick that He-Man and all the other Masterverse figures have. However, unlike Wave 1 He-Man, Faker's right wrist bracer is not glued in place and is removable right out of the package. So if you wanted to, you could actually swap the left and right wrist bracers to make Faker a mirror image clone. Faker stands at about 7 1/4 inches tall with either the battle damaged or undamaged head, while he stands at just a little over 7 inches with the exposed robot head. Faker sports the same articulation as He-Man, head on a ball peg that rotates 360 degrees and can look up and down, torso rocker joint, 360-degree waist rotation, shoulder that swivels up and down and rotates 360 degrees, bicep rotation, double-jointed elbows that still do not fully straighten out, wrist swivel and rotation, hips on a ball peg that can spread out, upper thigh rotation, double-jointed knees, boot rotation mid-calf, and an ankle joint that can move forwards and backwards as well as an ankle pivot. Here we have Masterverse Revelation Faker alongside Origins Faker to the left and Classics Faker to the right. It is immediately obvious that Masterverse Faker strays quite a bit from what a Faker typically looks like. If it wasn't for the orange Skeletor armor and orange power sword, it could just as easily be some other robotic He-Man clone and not necessarily Faker. Not only does the Masterverse Faker lack much of the traditional Faker deco, but he also lacks the computer panel on the chest that the other Fakers do, going all the way back to the vintage line. While Masterverse Faker's exposed metal parts are of a metallic bluish silver, it just doesn't quite capture the feel and spirit of previous Fakers. And as a little bonus, here he is with Classics Battle Armor Faker and Masters of the WWE Universe Faker John Cena, who hopefully shows up on camera, as we have been told we can't see him. In case you were curious, here's Masterverse Skeletor wearing Faker's armor. And here is Faker wearing Skeletor's armor. And here we have some parts swapping with Origins Faker. Please note that just like in my Masterverse Skeletor video, the Origins Skeletor armor does not properly close on the Masterverse torso. My final thoughts. Faker is a fun figure that has several things working against it that may turn some off. First off, the price point. Faker is a deluxe figure currently going for over $30 at Target. If you can get him for less, it's probably more worth it as the extra heads and extra armor don't seem like they should be adding nearly $10 to the regular price point. The second thing that might turn people off is that this design strays from the traditional Faker look. While it makes more sense to release a Faker that coincides with the character that was shown in Revelation, as that is one of the current shows, most fans are going to gravitate towards a Faker that is more familiar to what they know. The last thing the figure has going against it is that Faker in Revelation was barely in the show, so people may have a hard time justifying such a purchase on a character that got little screen time before being destroyed in the first 15 minutes of episode 1. On the other hand, if you are not that hung up on all Fakers having to follow the same traditional look, Masterverse Faker has a very striking and unique appearance. He's a lot of fun in hand and looks good displayed with your other Masterverse figures. If he's not your cup of tea though, it's always possible that we may see another release of Faker in the Masterverse line in the more traditional blue deco. I personally like him and would recommend him, but would suggest waiting till he's marked down from his full price. If you like this video, please be sure to like it, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below. I'm Big King Taurus, and thank you for watching.